So how you doing? I got a cool one for you today. So we're going to do things backwards. It's not typical that I have this opportunity. I'm going to talk to you about the 925 build. And you're going to get to see some of the secrets before you get to see some of the secrets, if you know what I mean. So I'm basically going to tell you what to look for in these upcoming videos. Because we got some good things, and we got some bad things too. So, let me show you, or let me tell you, what to look for. Alrighty? Now, I thought about how I want to do this video, but I think the best way is basically give you a timeline of events as they progressed. That way, as you watch videos on the saw, you'll kind of get an idea of how the saw is progressing. Alrighty? So, we're going to have the first test cut video coming up in a week. So it's quite an interesting video. You see, have you ever been in a situation where you were concentrating so hard on one thing that you were kind of oblivious of everything else that was going on? That happened to me. I guess you could say I got tunnel vision. And what I was doing is I was paying so much attention to the wood. You know what I mean? Because I'm cutting slivers off a piece of wood that just started out this wide, and it just kept getting smaller and smaller. I was just trying to concentrate on keeping the wood there and keeping the saw going through the wood. As the wood gets skinnier, it's harder to, keep everything steady for the video, But I was concentrating so much on that, I was completely oblivious to how the saw was really behaving. Completely. Like, I recorded the video, I spoke before and after the video, and I'm completely calm, and I'm like, yeah, she runs good, And then I even went as far as I edited the video, and I still didn't notice anything. It wasn't until I actually sat down like the next day and watched the video, and I was like, holy cow. So basically the saw went to a performance level I was never expecting. Never. Not in a million years. I never expected it to happen like that. So when you're watching this test cut video, what you want to see is you're going to see me tuning the saw basically through the cuts. And I'm going to give you some text. Make a couple of cuts, throw something in there like a little teaser or something. But when it gets to the end, pay attention to the one that says full send, because it's right at the end. I put up this text that says full send, and then you're going to see a cut. And it's like the saw is running great. But that's not the cut you're looking for. You're looking for the cut after that. So from one cut to the other, something happened. I did not tune the saw at all. I didn't change anything. The saw just went to another level, and you're going to get to see it in the video. I think it's the pipe. The pipe warmed up enough to take that saw to the next level. You know what I mean? It seems like I got to run this saw for a good 8 or 10 cuts until that pipe really warms up good, and the saw just starts running, at its full potential. Now, the video, the saw, the cutting, all that stuff, nothing's perfect, right? I tested the saw with a brand new out of the box chain. And, could it have been sharper? Yes, it could have been. But could it have been more dull? Most certainly. So I would say middle of the road chain. Okay. One of the things I noticed when doing this video, though, is as I was tuning the saw and the RPM started to come up, I was losing pull in the cut. It just wasn't pulling as hard on the wood as RPMs raised. And I'm thinking that might be one of the reasons we hear different people speak of different gauge, like raker depths on different, different setups and stuff. I got, because I've, how do I explain this? So a lot of my saws are set up at 25 thousandths on the raker gauge, but I'm noticing this one's definitely going to need to have a deeper raker gauge. And I have a feeling it's because of the RPMs coming up. There must be something going on in how it makes contact with the wood in the cut that you kind of need a deeper raker gauge as you go higher in RPM. I don't think the chain's necessarily taking a bigger chunk, though. Not necessarily. I think it just has to do with something with how the chain, when it's cutting the wood, and it cuts in and out, making the chips. I think it just has something to do with how that behaves, and you might need a deeper raker gauge to make up for the RPM or something. Somebody else out there might know more than that, but pay attention to the video. You're going to see that happen. As the RPMs come up, the cut speeds go down. I don't know why, but it did. Another thing is, well, it wasn't a perfect day, but on the other hand, it was absolutely a perfect day. So we're going to see this saw hit an RPM level that I never imagined to be possible. Never imagined it. Let's just say I think we had like this amazing planetary alignment of some sort to where all the stuff worked out perfectly. So all the great stuff worked out and all the bad stuff worked out exactly how it would need to make this saw run the way it did that day. Like it was perfect. You know what I mean? It wasn't like perfect as far as the perfect cutting saw. I mean, this thing is still far into testing. You know what I mean? We still got a lot of testing to do with this saw. But it was like the perfect situation to cause this situation to happen. Does it make sense to you? Now, I did develop some issues over time. And some of them I didn't realize at first. Sometimes, you know what I mean? It happens. So I've been running the saw. You've noticed I was at Mufflers with the saw and everything, and I got dirt on my elbow. I can feel it. But I found an issue. So when I was at Mufflers, I was like, boy, it's just not running the same as at home. Now, I did fatten the saw up some and turn it down some because I was kind of scared of where the RPMs went, but it still, it still wasn't performing the same. And I just could not figure it out. And I just figured it out tonight. It's so obvious. Let me show you something. There's the saw. Sitting right here. Look at how much caked on sawdust is forming everywhere. Like absolutely everywhere. From the oil. It's all over the place. Well, I discovered something. There's no way that could be oil. No way. Because I've opened the oil tank. It's still full. Clean up to the top. After all the cutting I've done, this saw didn't use a stitch of oil. Bar oil, I'm talking. Not one drop. I mean, I just stick my finger there, and there's oil. It's right up to the top. I did manually oil it a few times, so oil level did come down a little bit. But how did I get all this caked up sawdust all over the place, like it'd be oil, but my oil tank is still full? We got something happening here. Something is going on. I mean, it is caked everywhere. So what's this coming from? You know what I mean? It is absolutely everywhere. So this saw is definitely not oiling the way it should be. Now I ran this the whole time at Mufflers, and it just kept pulling that chain anyway. No oil. None of that oil was getting on the chain, and it still pulled it. That's something else. But I definitely, obviously, have some sort of an issue. Let me see if I can pull this bar off real fast. So I got the bar off. I want to take a look here. And the oiler at the saw, this whole region of the saw is dry. But I wonder if the manual oiler is working, because it obviously was getting something. Yeah, the manual oiler is working. So it's auto oiling that I'm having an issue with. So the fact that the manual oiler is working is probably why there's still a little bit of oil usage in the tank. But I definitely am spewing oil out of everywhere here, and it's not on the chain. Let me show you, since we got it off. See the mess? It's everywhere, but not really up there at the bar area. It's all over the place there, back there. It's even up here. Look at the starter area. Now, for as much of a mess I got on this saw from the sawdust, you know, I'm suspicious that it's not oil that I'm leaking. I'm suspicious it's fuel. I'm going to pull the air lid off. %, without a doubt, it's fuel. Brand new air filter. I have got a huge puddle of fuel inside the airbox. So we're going to have to tear this saw in, or tear into this saw. There's a possibility we ended up with a reed failure. And I would not be surprised. That probably explains my massive loss in power from one video to another, or from one time to another. You know, because my video that you got coming up here with the first cuts, this saw was performing at unbelievable levels. But then at Mufflers, it wasn't the same. This thing, like, here, let me show you. I put the air cover back on. Let me take that back off and show you. Just let me show you with the fuel in the airbox, okay? You ready? She's full. Well, not full, but you know what I mean. She's blowing fuel everywhere. I think it's a reed failure. You see, whenever I first started the saw, it was tuned so rich that I was getting an ignition inside the pipe. And when I'd let off the gas, it was throwing a massive charge back into the engine, and I was getting like this massive vibration because it was trying to ignite everything in the crankcase and all that stuff. So I probably shattered the reeds in that whole instance. You know? We'll have to check though. We'll pull it apart here in the future. But it's interesting that the saw was still running even with that mess. You know? The oiler's obviously not working. It's blowing fuel out the carburetor like mad. And it still ran like that at mufflers. Unbelievable. Imagine what this saw is going to do when this stuff is fixed. Oh, I can't wait. But, priorities. I got other things I got to take care of first. So, we're going to enjoy some cutting videos coming up. And we'll be tearing into this and figuring out what's going on there. But I still think it's funny how oblivious I was on that first video to what was actually going on. I can't believe it. I literally recorded the video, edited the video, and everything. It wasn't until after I uploaded it to YouTube and then watched it from there that I realized what actually happened. It's just funny how things work, Now, we might have to work at developing a really good reed for this, but we'll see. I do have other reeds here that we can try. So we'll explore different options. Maybe the factory reeds will be better than the ones I put in. You never know. Because the ones I put in are not really built for this situation. And this saw's bigger than what those reeds are supposed to be for and everything. So I might have just exceeded the capabilities of those reeds, really. I might have. But it's interesting, I'm anxious for you guys to watch that video, though, because it was like this planetary alignment. Everything worked out perfectly. All the flaws and all the good stuff at exactly the right moment to catch this tiny little moment where the saw just went to the moon. I mean, to the moon. If you guys ever ran an engine and right at that last moment, like it's running, you're running and you're like, boy, this thing is running really good. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, is this thing running? And then boom, she blows up. I think that's what we were doing. I think I had it right at that point to just blow, but then it didn't. For some reason, it did not blow. Hey, maybe it'll happen in the future. But for now, this is actually where we're at with this saw. And I thought we'd do a little different. Because usually I put this video after, all the cutting stuff. But I thought, why not do this first? That way you can kind of see and watch for these things as they occur. And maybe you can help me troubleshoot along the way. So we're going to do things a little backwards this time. I don't usually have the opportunity to do this, but just for some reason this time it did. It just lined up perfect that we can do this. So watch it. When the cutting video, watch for the last 2 cuts. Okay, you'll see the words full send, 2 cuts. The first one, the saw is just screaming. The second one, the saw goes to the moon, to just a whole new level. So watch for it. Okay? It doesn't last forever. You see, the port job and the pipe and everything I did on this, it really put peak power high in the RPM range. But peak power is at such a paper-thin area in the RPM range, it's a little too far, We're going to have to figure something out. I mean, the peak power is a little too high on this saw. You'll see it happen. It's so high in the RPM range. It just, that peak power in the RPM, you know what I mean? It's too high. And because it's so high, it's like as thin as a sheet of paper. You got to hold this perfect RPM in the cut for it to be at full power the whole time. And it's just not practical, So, because as soon as the RPM start to drop a little bit, the power just starts dropping considerably, So, it is what it is. We might have to build another one just to get that issue fixed, We just might. We can do it. We can. So, we'll see. We could just pull the cylinder off and put another one on it. I think I have one here somewhere. We can start searching for other cylinders, I think I got the roof too high on this one. and we're just trying it and seeing if we can get it to run. You know, whenever I built this saw, I said from the beginning I'm going to port this way further than I'm ever done, and I did. And now we're getting to see what happens. Saw screams great, but it doesn't have it in the bottom like I'd want. I bet you if I take this saw down to a 20-inch bar and just leave it to like 10, 12-inch wood, like in a race saw version, it would probably be quite impressive. But I would like it to be just a little bit more versatile than that. So we'll see what happens. But hey, something for you guys to watch for in these upcoming cut videos with the saw. You're going to see it take off like a rocket, and you're going to see me running mufflers with all these issues happening and me not realizing any of this stuff was going on. You know what I mean? It happens. This is one of the reasons we look at our saws after the fact to make sure everything is still good. And I got issues, I'm telling you. No oil happening, and I'm blowing fuel out the back carb like mad. It's got to be a blown reed or something major like that. It just has to. I cannot see it doing that with a perfectly functioning reed. You know what I mean? So I seriously think we got bad reeds. But we'll see when I tear it into it. Alrighty? So keep an eye on these videos. I think you'll enjoy it. Alrighty. Later.